You're live.
Okay. Hey guys. Sorry, we've been having some technical difficulties.
Start talking now.
Mostly related to the fact that we've had a lot of drinks so far. So I'm here with my friend Paul. It's been since, I don't think we've done a video, Paul, since
that dreadful night.
That dreadful night, a moment of truth, November. Yeah, we haven't. We have not done a video since Trump was elected president. So we have a lot to talk about. And we've actually, we are gathered with a bunch of friends at Paul's house. They are sitting around the table with us.
Like the inauguration, thousands.
Yeah, exactly like the inauguration. There's thousands here. Scores of people. It's huge.
All six of us.
But we are seated around a table with friends. We are eating hummus. Paul made a hummus bar for us, which was amazing. Like the perfect comfort food. We had kalamata olive, basil, parmesan,
fresh orange
some
roasted
wine,
peppers.
Yes, peppers. Anyway, it was really good. So we've been eating and drinking. We've been sitting around a table with friends, chatting about politics. And Paul started to say, what you can't see out of frame is that Paul's wife literally just did this. This is what Paul's wife did. She went.
She said he's doing that. He does that every night. Why would he do that on television?
So drunk.
So anyway, Laura has been crying all day. Laura, me too. I had a really bad day. I was telling them we had this plan that we would get together and we were going to film, and then I watched the inauguration and then literally started feeling nauseous and I thought I had the flu.
I knew you were sick from the inauguration. I didn't say anything.
I knew, yeah, I thought I was getting the flu and it went away. I literally got sick from watching the inauguration. Okay, Laura's saying there's a lot of background noise. So everybody be quiet. Okay, so we were sitting here chatting, and you were sharing a theory. Share your theory.
Okay, so my theory is my theory is this. So ultimately, I believe all human beings are good. At our heart, we're good. So Donald Trump is ultimately going to try to be good. He is going to try to appeal to the Hollywood crowd, to African Americans that don't like him, to youth that don't like him, to women that don't like him. Ultimately, Trump wants to be loved. And because of that, he is not going to be as radical as he was during the campaign. He is going to actually become this amazing man that tries to cause everybody to love him. And will go down in history as the greatest loved president in the history of our country.
Who are you?
An eternal optimist.
You think that for real?
No, I mean,
Turn this shit off.
I mean,
bro.
So you think his narcissism is going to make him... You think his narcissism is going to make him seek approval and therefore be more moderate?
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that
Do you have any evidence?
no, I have no evidence of that, but I don't know, you're a therapist, and so you would know.
Maybe
but,
we've had a lot to drink.
narcissists ultimately want to be loved. True or false? True.
Well, true. However, let me say exactly. Okay, so I will put my therapist hat on right now with a few drinks in. Narcissists, yes, are driven by their desire to be respected. However, they are not in control of their faculties. And so when they are insulted, and when I'm trying to talk clinically now, but I've had to switch drink to sound smart.
When their ego is challenged.
When their ego is challenged, when there is a narcissistic wound, meaning that someone challenges their view of themselves or their thoughts of themselves, they completely, yeah, they
She's coaching.
I'm the therapist here. They become combative.
I lived it.
And you see that with Trump. You see that exact thing. When someone challenges him, he flies off the handle. I mean, he has taken to task on Twitter Meryl Streep, Saturday Night Live. So, I mean, he's not just a normal person who wants the approval of other people, which we all do. All of us want approval from others. But that narcissism makes him irrational, illogical, and cuckoo. Right?
Everybody's nodding. Okay, so I'm wrong on that one. So what will he try to do then? If he's a narcissist and he wants to be loved, what will he do? If ultimately he wants to be loved.
No, narcissists don't want to be loved. They want to be respected and they want to think highly of themselves. And they are delusional. So, I mean...
Sorry. So the problem is, the part of the problem is an extreme inferiority complex.
Yes, inferiority complex. So he doesn't actually have great self-esteem. He has low self-esteem. He's going to use everyone around
So
him.
what will he do then? If you're right, I will
I
grant you.
think he's a megalomaniac, and I think he'll continue. Good grief, who invited these people? I think he will continue to act like a megalomaniac idiot. That's what I think. He's getting approval from racists and all the other wackadoos.
He's getting approval from racists?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he cares about winning the approval of everyone.
Okay, so
he doesn't give a shit about racists.
He respects strong men.
okay, let me try again. Populism is the idea of populism is I am going to preach a message that most people will not act. That is populism.
I'm going to pander.
Pander
to the
I have a
left.
really smart Stanford grad here correcting me, and he
Right.
usually does. And
Just come into the frame.
he's usually right, but the idea of populism is I'm going to preach a message that most people will agree on. And today Trump preached a message that wasn't Republican, it wasn't Democrat, it was populist. He was speaking to the most people in their living rooms today saying, your life sucks, I'll bring your jobs, we're going to make America great again. And that's what he did. And so I believe his populism is based out of his narcissism. He ultimately wants most Americans to think that they want him, he wants to be adored by them, right? Isn't that what his populism comes by? They're disagreeing again.
It's not an adore thing.
No.
He says,
It's narcissism.
he says, people like me who are rich and smart should rule the world. And everybody should do what I say. And I get affirmation by having control.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Control.
And
Control.
and being pissed off when people don't do what I want them to do. And so what he's going to do is he's going to fight for that control. And that's why who does he hate? Two people. The CIA and all the intelligence community. Why? Because they're investigative. And the press. Why? Because they're investigative. He's scared shitless that people are going to investigate stuff and he's a fraud.
I think you're right. I think he hates anyone who threatens his idea of himself. To others or to himself.
That's why truth is such a bummer.
Yeah, it does. Life always ends badly.
So does life end badly for Trump in the next 4 years? And so this is a big question. Many think he will be impeached quickly, that he will blunder.
I think he'll do something. But I have to say, let's back up and talk about this morning, okay? Because I had initially said I wasn't going to watch the inauguration, and then I ended up watching part of it because everyone was talking about it, and I went on to C-SPAN and watched. I didn't think he'd make it to the inauguration. And watching it this morning we were talking about this earlier, it was like surreal. It was like, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And it did, it happened.
It happened. I was intrigued with his speech. That was something they spent months writing, and a lot of time writing.
Someone spent time writing it.
Yeah, somebody did.
Yeah.
But it was such a duplicate of his speech at the convention when he got the nomination. It was about America burning up, carnage. He used the term carnage. They literally spent months deciding to use the word carnage to describe our country that has the lowest crime rate in 30 years or so. He seems to be continuing on this law and order.
Yeah.
The country's burning up, it's a disaster, and I'm going to come and clean it up and make it safe again.
Well, I thought it was interesting. In his 16-minute speech, he decided to devote time to gangs, inner-city gangs, which, let's be honest, there is a problem with inner-city gangs that affects 0.1% of the population. So yeah, so tiny. But he's cherry picking these issues that evoke fear in Middle America, that don't actually affect Middle America.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rhetoric in this speech, a lot of fear mongering, and I think one of the criticisms I've heard, and I would agree, is it was a campaign speech. It wasn't an inauguration speech. He was still, making a case.
So from a marketing perspective, and you're a marketer, and you understand that realm, he was on message. He was consistent. He was speaking in layman's language.
Yes.
It was very clear.
Yeah.
And in that sense, he didn't deviate from any of his campaign speeches. He was on message. This is a brand he's selling, and it's about making America great again and safe again and more rich again.
To your point on his favorability issue, is that he doesn't seem to have the ability to speak to anyone other than the most extreme side of his base, right? Because if you're, most people look at that, even George Will, right? Did you see the George Will article?
I didn't see it.
So George Will said that was the worst inaugural speech of all time. And George Will is 3 bars right of center. I mean,
way right of Trump.
So he's not able to talk to any of the Democrats. An inaugural speech, like you're saying, is I'm speaking to America. I'm not speaking at a convention. Even at a convention, you're not really supposed to be speaking to your base. You're still speaking. He doesn't have speech writers around him who are able to bring him towards the center.
Or he doesn't have speech writers that he's willing to listen to. I mean, and that's, and at the end of the day, I think that's a big problem with Trump, too. I think he has the people around him to steer him correctly. He won't listen to them. Even with Twitter, it's like, surely there are advisors saying, stop, and he's like, no, I'm just going to do this thing how I want to do it. But yeah, I mean, there was a point in the speech where he talked about, I'm for you. I'm representing you. But when you really listen to the context, it doesn't feel like he's for many Americans. I think he's for white Americans. Because he even said, America first, and we're going to protect, I feel like the subtext to me is white people first. I don't know.
He did have that comment, it doesn't matter if you're black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red color of patriots.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I know this is something you know a lot about and you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think if you are willing to assimilate into a, white Protestant version of American, then you're included. You can be under that umbrella. But I think, if you are Muslim or you don't speak English or you're not here in the acceptable path to be here, then you're out. You're not American.
Interesting. A couple comments. One from Megan says, do you think evangelicals will start to realize who he really is until the pastors of those evangelical churches start to speak about who he really is? No. And the pastors are afraid because the board members and major donors are white and privileged and will never allow those pastors to speak about who he really is. And so, no. Thank you, Megan, for that question. I'm almost hopeless about the evangelical community and their lack of understanding of what's going on.
But I have to say, to Megan's point, when you even look at the speech, when he talks about America first, and he drew a clear line. We are prioritizing Americans. That's not even a Christian concept. I mean, a Christian concept would be every person first. Or it would actually, Christian concept would be the downtrodden first.
Right.
You're giving evangelicalism way too much credit.
Well, I'm talking Jesus, not evangelicalism. Actual Jesus, which doesn't always align with evangelicalism. But, the true Christian concept would be the least of these is first. And he's saying America is first, which is, to me, anti-Christian.
This is a golden moment for me, because I think with you here and you saying that we are in to me the civil war right now is between the evangelical church and the evangelical church. And is the evangelical church for America, as we heard today in this speech, or for the outcasts?
I'm embarrassed even to call myself an evangelical.
When one of my good friends said I'm embarrassed to call myself an evangelical, and I would say I am as well, because if Jesus wasn't about those outsiders that Trump calls losers, and they were fucking born that way, which he says in his tweet, you could look at that, it's so disturbing. And
Yeah.
today seemed to be about patriotism and winning and kicking the butts of those who were. But to me, this is the big divide in the church.
Yeah, I totally agree. I completely agree. And it's a divide in the church, but I think it's also a generational divide. And I think,
True.
yeah, and I think we're seeing just some holdovers. But it points back to one of the conversations we've had over and over in this election cycle, which is there are a lot of people who are nationalistic first, evangelical second, and their Christianity is secondary to their nationalism and is a symptom of their nationalism.
Intrinsically tied.
You're right, but they're
Syncretism.
they're Christian. They're Christian because they're nationalists and we're a Christian nation. But they're nationalists first. Nationalist. What I mean by nationalist is, they are a patriot. They are American. They are.
Before anything else.
Yeah, that's really where the tie goes. They're Republican before anything else, which is why so many evangelicals could vote for Trump and not see the cognitive dissonance there because they're nationalist first.
And it was so clear. I mean, in as much as Trump is a shrewd marketer, like purely Madison Avenue marketer, he understands that.
Yeah.
And today's speech was about America.
Yeah.
Patriotism, America, 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 self-interest.
Yeah.
And I could just see all the 60 years old plus evangelicals lapping that up.
Oh, totally.
It's all about America.
So what is the other?
Yeah.
My dad loved it.
Your dad loved it. My dad loved it. Your dad loved it.
What is it? I don't know. My dad's passed, but
He probably loved it too. You
You know he would have loved it.
He would have.
so what is the alternative church? I mean, what do they say? How do we not be involved in advocating for the poor, but not being beholden to a party? I mean, that kind of stuff's hard to navigate.
I think there's going to be a civil war.
You drunk people figure it out.
I think there's going to be a civil war. I love the question, and I think
Not
within the evangelical church. And I do think Christian's so right. It's generational to a large extent. I do think people that are generally 55 and up are for Trump, and people who are 35 and below are thinking he's a Nazi. And I think there's a real. It used to be the progressives against the evangelicals. But I think the new civil war is the evangelicals against the evangelicals. And we saw that with Christianity Today. David Neff's piece that was as anti-Trump as it gets. And that's Christianity Today.
the media of evangelicalism.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think we're seeing the fractures within evangelicalism because I would say.
And you're in that realm. I mean, you meet with these people. And
but I would say prior, it was interesting because I was thinking back to Obama's election, the first time. And I was ensconced in a Republican church at that time, and everyone was in agreement that Obama was the Antichrist, and
the Muslim Antichrist.
Yes, but I see evangelicals being really fractured over this. It isn't. There's not a party line anymore. They are fractured. To your point,
That's the only thing that gives me any hope about Christianity.
That's the thing that gives you hope about Christianity, that they're fractured. Yeah, because we no longer see there isn't a party line anymore. I don't think. Obviously the numbers were that a lot of evangelicals voted for Trump, but I know so many that didn't. So I do think that marriage between the Republican Party and evangelical Christians, which needed to be broken up, I do think that this sort of,
And Obama. You mentioned his name. I hadn't thought about him. But I never voted for him. I hate to say it. Sorry, guys. Sorry, progressive friends.
What?
No, I didn't. I didn't vote for Obama.
Are you sad?
Well, no. I thought in the first election, I thought I was always a McCain fan, and so when McCain ran, that was my man. In the second election, I thought Romney knew a lot more about the economy than Obama did, and so I voted for Romney. And I'm a lifelong Republican. I don't regret it. I'm still a Republican, but I have as much respect for that man as I do almost anyone on this planet.
Yeah.
Him and his wife, his values, his poise, his character.
He had an impeccable presidency. He really did.
He embodies a ton of your values.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The rigorous intellectualism. I mean, come on, man.
I mean, I could almost say nothing. I won't cry, but he's one of the most amazing people I've known in my life, and I'm a Republican saying that.
Yeah.
And my only hope would be that more Republicans would be able to look at people for what they do and who they are, as opposed to what party they're part of.
Well, and what's so crazy is I've seen so many people today talking about George W. because he had a presence with his raincoat, and just that I think all of us are like, I would take him.
He's like Pooh Bear. He's like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah,
He's so cool. He's Christopher Robin.
He seems like Winnie the Pooh compared to now we're all looking back at Romney and George W. and McCain and going, I would take that now. Like that doesn't seem so scary anymore. Oh gosh, yeah, George W. I mean, he seems like less of a threat at this point. Okay, let's talk really quickly, Paul, about some of the cabinet appointments and the interviews and the questioning that we've seen this week.
So I've taken a little bit of a fast, so I don't know that much.
Okay.
But I know that some of my heroes on PBS, Mark Shields and David Brooks, both think that the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary for Homeland Security are both impeccable choices.
Okay.
Both the liberal Shields and Brooks thought these are like heroes.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I don't know a lot.
Yeah.
I was surprised that Robert Gates, who served both under George W. Bush and Barack Obama as Secretary of Defense, spoke very highly of Rex Tillerson. I know that's controversial, but I was surprised that Gates commended him and thought he would be a good choice, the ExxonMobil CEO. I mostly am thinking about the Vicky. Is it Vicky DeVos?
DeVos.
Yeah, Becky. I think the Secretary for Education, and she's pretty much a pathetic mess.
She's a mess.
She's a mess.
She's a mess. The questions to her revealed what a mess she is. I mean, it was so cringy watching. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
I mean, her family's a billionaire family from Michigan. They've given away $20 million.
She's never had a job. She's never interviewed for a job. She's never had a child apply for Betsy.
Betsy.
She's never had a child. I like to call her Betsy. She's never.
It's almost better to call her Becky.
Betsy Ross.
Yeah, I mean, she's just so out of touch, so unqualified for the job. And then she kept deferring to we'll let states decide on major issues. So she was unwilling to agree that the Disability Act should be, federal. She was unwilling to agree that guns don't have a place in school. Just all over the place. And it was so cringy. And she seems very unqualified for the job.
It just seems like one of the things about Obama that I respected, and frankly, every president in my lifetime, was when it came to secretary posts, these people knew what the hell they were talking about. They had decades of experience.
Yeah.
Advisors in the trenches. These were the PhD nerdy experts.
This is who you're going to defer to when you don't know the answer,
right?
When you're the president and you're like, I'm not, this is the person that you want advising you. They need to be smarter than you.
Right. And so when Senator Franken from Minnesota was asking DeVos about these philosophical differences between growth and proficiency, which in the realm of education is kind of talking about if you're a farmer, the difference between organic and inorganic.
Right.
She didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm very disturbed, ma'am, that you don't know the difference between
basic
growth
proficiency.
and proficiency, these concepts that I knew nothing about. But she was stumbling and fumbling, and he was just thought, really? You're going to lead a $1 trillion budget, overseeing the most important aspect of our democracy, which is the education of our youth, and you don't know the difference between these pedagogical aspects?
Wow,
and she didn't.
That's a big word, drunk guy.
Well, and I do think this is the come to Jesus for a lot of Republicans who voted for him and just thought, well, I like certain things but not others, like, this is where shit gets real. And for people with kids with autism or Down syndrome or, you know, where all of a sudden it's like, this is where it comes home.
Right.
And this is where it gets really ugly for people, you know, because she's basically saying, I'm not willing to assure that every child has an equal education. And that was another question that she sort of tried to divert, was just like, can you agree that everyone deserves equality?
Yeah.
She's not willing to say.
Absolutely. And as a Republican who has voted solidly Republican since Ronald Reagan, my first vote many years ago, I just want proficient people.
Yes.
I don't care if they're left or right. I don't care, but I want them to be people that I think this person has paid his or her dues in the trenches, in education, teaching, mentoring, as a counselor, as anything. And this lady has zero experience. Zero.
Yeah.
And so that makes me concerned.
Yeah, it's very concerning. I mean, you want at least to feel like your president is smarter than you and more emotionally regulated than you. And I don't feel either of those things with this guy.
Can I say something?
At all. Yes.
I
Brad.
think there's, well, you take the boss, education, pretty important, right? I mean,
Plato,
it's
Republic.
unbelievably important. And then you have, what's his name, Scott Pruitt, who is the pro, fracking guy from Oklahoma, who has cases suing the EPA, who is now going to be head of the EPA. The environment, pretty important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's it? Perry.
Rick Perry.
Rick Perry.
We're going to get rid of this.
We're going to get rid of the Department of Energy, which has control of the nuclear arsenal, which is pretty important. So you have exactly what you would think, is you get some PhD guys with 30 years of experience, whether it's diplomatic or whatever, and you have people who are completely unqualified for the jobs.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bode well for things that are super important. We should be winning the second half of the 21st century right now on clean energy. If we want to make America great again, let's make America great this decade, but let's think about next decade and next decade too, and continue and win that. I mean, our kids, what we do about energy and energy policy is pretty darn important. What we do with the environment is pretty important. What we do with education is pretty important.
To your point, one of the biggest kind of brouhahas from today is the fact that the federal government website pulled the page for climate control, pulled the page for LGBTs, and pulled the page for civil rights. So all of these people who are like, well, let's just wait and see what he does when he's in office. I mean, right from the get-go, he's basically trying to erase climate control, erase LGBT issues, erase civil rights as being an issue. And this is, a few minutes after he's giving a speech of, I'm representing all of you. Well, I don't think my LGBT friends feel really represented when their identity is being erased from the White House website. It's bad. It's not good. All right. Should we?
Time for dessert credit.
It's time for dessert.
And scene.
And scene. All right. That's it for now. Paul and I are going to be doing more videos.
Every week.
I don't know about every week.
Every week.
Every week-ish. But we are going to be coming back because.
Emphasis on the wish.
Unfortunately, we need to keep talking because I think.
I mean, the main thing is we are. I'm old. I'm much older than I look. I got carded today, by the way. I'm so happy about that. But these are uncharted times. There's never been anything like this before, and there's a threat to our democracy. There really is.
I agree.
There's a demagogue, a narcissist, somebody who built our country, many states, into voting for him. He lost the popular vote by 3 million votes.
Yeah.
And he's now running our education, our military, our social issues, and we'll see what happens in the years and months ahead, but we need to be talking about it.
We do. I completely agree. So, stay tuned. keep watching. But yeah, in the next couple of weeks, we will be doing more videos, and we want to focus not just on what crazy things Trump is doing this week, although I'm sure that will be part of the conversation, but we want to talk about social justice. We want to talk about racial reconciliation and all of those issues that are important to us as well. All right, thanks for joining us, guys. Talk to you soon.